Alright, so what we are going to do here is this task. We are asked to configure 4 VLANs. VLAN 10 for sales, 11 admin, and VLAN 12 is ICT, 13 is marketing. So 4 VLANs, and so we are going to come up with a topology using our packet tracer. And so we are using 2 switches here. As a matter of fact, the switch here is switch 1, SW1, and the switch here is SW2, switch 2. And so we are going to configure VLAN 10 and 11 on switch 1 and VLAN 12 and 13 on switch 2. And so if you look at the task, we also to configure trunking between switch 1 and switch 2. And so there should be a trunk configuration between this switch here and this switch here, and both switches are connecting to each other using port 10. So jump into the switch right away and go to CLR. So just going to expand this a bit. So I'm on switch 1. And we're going to quickly configure VLANs there. Enable, that's a privilege mode. User mode. And so we're in the privilege mode. We do configure terminal or conft. And here I could just go ahead and do host name and change the name of the switch to switch 1. So we'll do VLAN 10. We name it. We are told to name it sales. VLAN 11. We are told to name it admin. Alright, so the 2 VLANs have been created. So if I want to see what I've configured, I could do exit to get back to privilege mode where I'm allowed to do show commands. But if I don't want to exit from here, and at the same time I still want to use show command here, I started with do. So I could do show VLAN or do show VLAN brief. So once again, going to expand this guy, and if we scroll up, you're going to see we have VLAN 10 and 11 created, but we've not specified which port on the switch should belong to which VLAN. So that's the next thing we have to do. So we are going to assign ports to these VLANs we have created. By default, all ports on the switch belongs to default VLAN, and the default VLAN is what? VLAN 1. The name is what? Default. All ports from port 1 to 24 belongs to the default VLAN. So if you just move these systems here a little bit, you'll be able to see the ports that they are connected to. This is on port 1 and this is on port 2, and so this is on port 3 and this is on port 4. So it means that port 1 and 2 on switch 1 should be assigned to sales department. So let's get back to the switch, and to do port 1 and port 2 we have to exit from VLAN configuration mode. So type exit, and so we are back to the normal global mode. And so here I could do this command, interface range fast ethernet 0/1 to 2. that I'm doing port 1 and port 2 together, and I'm going to assign this port 1 and port 2 on the switch to sales department. So I'm going to do switch port mode access, and then go ahead and do switch port access followed by the VLAN want the 2 ports to belong to. In this case, sales VLAN, sales department, which is VLAN 10. So port 1 as well as port 2 on this switch have been assigned to sales, and sales is VLAN 10. All right. Now we are going to do the other port, which is 3 and 4. You see here that port 3 and 4 on that same switch is belonging to admin department, which is on VLAN 11. So select the specific port and put the mode of the port to access mode, and then we'll specify which VLAN those two ports should join. And if we do show VLAN or show VLAN brief, if you like, you can put brief and hit the enter key, you see that we've successfully have assigned port 1 and 2 to which VLAN? Sales. And port 3 and 4 have been assigned to admin VLAN, which is VLAN 11. Alright, so let's look at what we have done. So we are told to configure 4 VLANs. On switch 1, we have to have VLAN 10 and 11, and we have done that. On switch 2, we have to have VLAN 12 and 13. Alright, so let's go ahead and create 2 more VLAN. We are going to exit. So VLAN 12, name of the VLAN. If you look at the task, VLAN 12 is ICT while VLAN 13 is marketing. So VLAN 12 name will be ICT, and VLAN 13 name will be marketing. Alright, so we are not going to, we just created all the VLANs here in this switch 1, and we are not going to assign ports to ICT and marketing. Why? The reason is that ICT and marketing department are connected to another switch and not connected to switch 1. But despite that, we'll go ahead and create all the VLANs on switch 1, but the only ones we assign port to are the ones that are connected to switch 1. Now we could come to this switch 2 and recreate all the VLANs we have done in switch 1 by manually doing it all over again. We could also automate it by configuring VTP both sides, as well as configuring trunking between switch 1 and switch 2. So you're already seen how VTP could be configured, VLAN trunking protocol. So I'm not going to use VTP in this tutorial, so I'm going to just go ahead and manually recreate all the VLANs. So go to switch 2, CLI, and it's going to take us to user mode. We'll have to drag this guy up. I'd like to make it in a way that I will be seeing the topology of the other side. Alright, so here we have VLAN. So just go ahead and create all the VLANs, and we'll do conft. Let's first change the name of the switch to switch 2, and so we'll be very fast. VLAN 10 name sales, VLAN 11 name is admin, VLAN 12 name is ICT, and lastly VLAN 13 name is marketing. So creating VLAN is like a hobby, and so we've quickly created the 4 VLANs. We're also going to specify that port 1 as well as port 2 on this switch belong to ICT. Note that port 1 and port 2 of this switch is totally different from port 1 and port 2 of this switch, because these are 2 different switches. Alright, so we're going to assign port 1 and port 2 here to ICT VLAN, while port 3 and 4 here will be assigned to marketing. So go ahead, and if you do show VLAN or show VLAN brief, you're going to see all the VLANs we have created, and none of us have port assigned to them. The only ones we are going to assign port to in switch 2 will be ICT and marketing. We don't have any member of sales or admin department connected to switch 2. So going back to switch 2, we are going to assign this port.
So once again, using the command switch to interface user
range.
We use the
range is
user will just
specifying that we are doing more than one port at a time.
To use something that is not
we are
the
doing
actual
port
password,
as well as port 2.
Password is invalid. That is first attempt.
Command switch port mode.
This is second attempt. Password is invalid.
And wow, I think I made a mistake in my switch.
This is third attempt.
Spelling.
Password is incorrect and invalid. And if you check the server configuration, we said if we make 3 invalid attempts,
whenever you make a mistake,
the account
you're
should be
going to
locked.
see this invalid
So we have
detected
attempted that 3
message.
invalid attempts. So let's try to violate it. Let's do the fourth one.
Access.
And this is what we expected. So the reference account is currently locked out and may not be logged on to. So it means that even if I click on OK, the window for me to continue to attempt to put the password is
followed by the VLAN ID,
and I cannot access that window again until it
port which belongs to VLAN 13, which is
that's account lockout policy. We use it to prevent password guessing attack on domain join systems. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please go ahead and do the same thing that you've seen me do in this video in your own server environment.
VLAN keyword followed by the VLAN ID. Alright, so we could go ahead and do show VLAN or do show VLAN brief. I'm using do because I'm supposed to leave the global mode and get back to privileged mode before I use show command, but I decided not to do exit, so I use do before the show command. Alright, so you see what we've been able to achieve. Port 1 and 2 on this switch belongs to ICT department, and that's VLAN 12, and port 3 and 4 belongs to sales department, marketing, and that is VLAN 13. So I think that task number 1 has been successfully completed. Now task number 2, configure trunking between switch 1 and switch 2. Alright, so looking at switch 1 and switch 2, how did they connect to each other? In my own topology, switch 1 is using port 10 to connect to switch 2, also on port 10. So the ports that you are using in your own configuration could be different from the port I'm using, and it's not really mandatory that the port you are using on switch 1 must match with the port you are using on switch 2. You could use any port of your choice. Configuration of trunking is very straightforward. So to configure trunking for port 10 on switch 1, just once you're on the global mode, you're going to get into that port you want to trunk. In this case, switch port F0/10, and the command to use to trunk this port is switch port mode trunk. It's as simple as that, and that port has been trunked, and we have to end this configuration and WR to write it to memory. So when you do a trunk configuration on a port, the link goes down momentarily and later it will come back up. So on switch 2, we are going to do the same thing. So we exit out from the previous configuration. We'll go to interface fast Ethernet 0/10, and once again we're going to do switch port mode trunk, and that's it. So end and save, right? And so task number 2 has been completed successfully. We've now had a trunk configuration between the two switches, switch 1 and switch 2. And why is the trunking necessary? Trunking is necessary. You see that both ports are backup. When we did the trunking configuration, both of them went down. Trunking is necessary if we ever want a VLAN traffic from VLAN 10 to access VLAN 13 traffic, now the link connecting the two switches are going to be configured as trunk. If not, VLAN traffic will not be allowed to pass through this link. That is the essence of trunking. Alright, so what is next? The next thing here says we should configure inter-VLAN routing to allow all VLANs to communicate. Now, inter-VLAN routing is configured on a router. So if you want to do inter-VLAN, the idea is that you want to allow devices on different VLANs to be able to share files, to be able to access each other once again. You know that when we create a VLAN, we're able to isolate devices, and it's only devices that are in the same department that can access each other. But if inter-VLAN routing is configured, then the members of ICT should be able to access marketing, should also be able to access admin, as well as sales. In that case, we are going to bring out a router. The router could be connected to either of the switches, either on switch 1 or on switch 2. Now, the router I'm using, just for emphasis, is 2811. So you just click on 2811 rather, and drop it here. So it could be connected to switch 2 or to switch 1. It doesn't really matter which switch it connects to. So for now, I don't need two routers, so I'm going to do away with this. Alright, so we're going to pick a cable, and that will be straight because we are connecting the similar devices. So click on the router, select fast Ethernet 0/0, and I'm going to use port 15 on the switch. Alright, so the link will be showing red because routers, their ports are shut down by default. And so I'm going to go to the router and configure the port to come up before it could turn to green. Alright, so I'm going to end this tutorial here, and then when we resume, we're going to see how to configure inter-VLAN routing so that devices on different departments can begin to access each other now. Thanks for watching.